The ultimate compliment is to be considered an asset by those who know you. But what exactly does that mean? And how do we get there? I believe that there is a less discussed approach to becoming a person of value, a person who is successful, respected by others, and fulfilled. It's somewhere between the hustle culture and the ease and flow of manifestation. This podcast is designed to be a resource for the ambitious, the relentless, and the rare who are breaking societal norms, going against the grain, and are open to unconventional practices as we study what it takes to be a true asset in every area of life. My hope is that you'll find this podcast unique and like it enough to share it with a friend and maybe even one day join us at one of our in-person events. Enjoy. What's up, everybody? Excited to have you here. I want to talk about failure. I want to talk about the fact that you're going to fail, and that I don't think society, I don't think a lot of our parents prepare us properly for failing. And I'm going to tell you a story about that as I dive in. I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a coach for retired Navy SEAL Jason Redman. He has a group coaching program. It's called the Overcome Army. And this week we were talking about failure. We were talking about how, like, everything about it. We had one coach talking about, inaction and failure to take, action. We had me talking about failing forward. We had a big group discussion about it. And I've done podcasts. I know that there's a podcast episode on here talking about failing forward. But I want to talk about failing, just failing. Obviously, I don't believe in failing unless you fail forward. And the reason I don't believe in that is because that is what I've had to learn how to do. I fail all of the time. I fail constantly. All the time. I mess up. I make mistakes. I'm human. And I fail. I fail in my marriage. I fail as a friend. I fail as a business owner. I fail as a leader. I fail just as a human, as a dog mom. Don't tell my dogs. They'll tell you probably. And here's the thing. It's not that big of a deal because I pick up and I move forward. Failure becomes a big deal when you let that failure define you. Not enough people understand that if you just embraced failing, because you're going to, and you started using it as a tool for you to succeed and be better, then you would actually embrace failing. You would embrace failure. You would embrace not being perfect. And going from there, you would not come out of fear. Now, here's the thing. When we are afraid to fail, which we all are, so my clients, there's an intake form when you sign up to work with me one-on-one. I want to get to know you. I ask some questions. A lot of my clients are saying, maybe not even in these words, but sometimes in these words is, what are your biggest fears or whatever? I'm afraid to fail. At the end of the day, I'm afraid to fail. I mean, across the board, clients I've coached, people I've talked to online, people I've met in my life, looking myself in the mirror and being real. It's like, fuck, I don't want to fail. I'm afraid to fail. We all are. Inevitably, we become afraid to fail because when we, at some point in our lives, society teaches us we can't make mistakes. It is not okay for us to get messy. We can't fall on our faces. We can't make these mistakes. We can't express ourselves in ways that aren't, fine, that aren't accepted socially. And so we become afraid to make those mistakes, right? So let's say we make a mistake in school. Well, we're going to get a bad grade. So then we get a bad grade, and then what happens? Well, mom and dad are going to kick our ass, right? Because we got a bad grade, because we made a mistake, because we failed an exam, because we failed an assignment, whatever. And so I'm not saying that's bad. Like, I just want you to know that. Like, I understand it. But I'm just trying to show you, and that might not even be a great example, but like, there is, and here's the thing, there is a time and a place, and there is a reason for structure and kicking our asses if we aren't doing great, right? Yes. But there's some sort of common ground, some sort of, I don't know, rhythm to it. I'm not saying I know what it is. I'm going to give you an example in a minute. But I can say, and this is why I wanted to spark this conversation in your head, because I'm not saying I have all the answers. I don't want you to sit here and listen to this podcast because you think I have all the answers. I do not. I'm just like you. I'm just voicing my opinions. I'm just voicing the conversations, the thoughts in my head. That's what this podcast is about. That's it. So I just think that there is a way to handle all of it. There's a way to handle balance of being afraid to fail, right? And striving for success. And obviously, like, there's a lot of like that fear of failure. If you can use it and harness it correctly, then you'll become relentless at winning. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you're enjoying it and getting some good stuff, mind-shifting things from this. I just wanted to remind you super quick that if we are not hanging out on social media, we should be. You should come hang out with me. I am the Autumn Clifford on Instagram. I'm Autumn Clifford on TikTok, and I have a Facebook group called She's an Asset. Love to have you there. Love to hang out with you and get to know you. Thank you so much for supporting my show. Let's continue. Look, Michael Jordan, the absolute best athlete of all time, hands down. I'm sure he was afraid of failure. He would say it. I'm going to win. Winning is everything. Like, winning is everything, and that is it, which means the opposite is failing, and he does not fail. So probably that fear drove him, right? But he learned how to harness that. What happens is that we do not learn how to harness and use that failure for our good. What we do is we let it stop us in our tracks. We let failure define us in a negative way. And when we let failure define us in a negative way, it changes who we actually are and how we show up in the world. And it gives us a result that we don't like. Let me give you an example. I have a beautiful, beautiful client, and she's kind of going through this transformation right now. And she came to me and she was kind of feeling like the first thing she said is like, I feel like I don't fit in at my place of employment. I feel like, they'll get together and like they don't invite me. Well, I believe that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I believed it right from the get-go, because this young lady is spectacular and has so much going for her. She just doesn't see it. And so through our coaching together, pretty quickly on, we discovered that she is critically, like, fucking unbelievably afraid to fail. It is like failure to her equals being unloved. And you have to understand she has some deep stuff from feeling unloved in her life. Okay. So failing for her is like life or death. Like it will take her breath away. It is awful. So she is that perfectionist. She is, type A, like, I'm going to be perfect at everything. I might not put myself out there as much because I don't want to make a mistake. You know what I mean? But everything I do, I'm going to make sure it's perfect. And then what happens is if somebody gives her constructive criticism, i.e., in her mind, she fails, she is so critical of herself that she becomes uncoachable. She becomes somebody that you don't want to coach, you don't want to mentor, you don't want to help, because one of two things. One, you see this poor young woman just completely like demoralize herself. Like, you just see her breaking down, whether she says she tries to hide it. And I'm like, of course you try to hide it, but it's everywhere, because it's at your core. This is a core feeling. You're not going to hide that. Like, it's a core. You are shaken at your core. It is a life and death thing for you. You're not going to hide that. So she is like visibly like, holy shit, like this is awful, right? So, and so then like people are probably like, ugh, like I don't want to be around that because I don't want to hurt her and I don't know how to interact with her. Or the other thing is like, shit, like, do we want to hang out with somebody who like we can't like bust her balls, like we can't like have a good time with her, we can't tease her, because I bet she can't take that. So then that self-fulfilling prophecy comes. So the answer to this, and this is what I've chatted with her about, what we're working on currently, the answer is to loosen up a little bit, because failure isn't the worst thing that could happen. Losing yourself is. And when you become so overly critical of yourself, you've lost yourself. The key is to be like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Michael Phelps, the best athletes in the world, Kobe Bryant. LeBron James to me is not in this category. I'm just saying. I think LeBron is athletically gifted. He is not one of my favorite athletes. Dwayne Wade, totally. I love Shaquille O'Neal since I've been a kid, but I don't know. I mean, I do believe that Shaq has definitely embraced the failing forward, embraced, harnessing failure and utilizing it for his good. If you listen to a story, if you know anything about him, be like that. Be like the most successful people in the world. We look at people like Tony Robbins. We look at people like Andy Frisella, the owner and founder of First Form, co-owner and founder of First Form. We look at people like my mentor, retired Navy SEAL Jason Redman. You can go back and I actually interviewed him on this podcast, him and his wife. Like, the guy almost died, like on the battlefield in war. Got shot multiple times in the head, all over his body. He's gone through, like, I want to say 40 surgeries. Like, the guy is a living legend. He took adversity and he just made it his bitch. He took failing and he talks about all of his failures very publicly, and he has embraced them. He didn't allow the failures to define him in a negative way. Be like that. If I were to allow my failures to define me, I wouldn't be sitting here creating this podcast, talking to you. This podcast wouldn't be reaching the thousands of people that it reaches. And I don't even create content. Like, I haven't even been consistent in the last 6 months of creating episodes, and I've had more downloads this last 6 months than I've ever had. I mean, because I never let failure stop me. Okay? It might slow me down a minute. It might take me off my feet, might cut me off at the knees. It might take my breath away. It might have me take a step back and really reevaluate things, which I don't think is wrong. I think we should be constantly reevaluating ourselves in order to get to the next level, but I never let it stop me. And I'm inviting you today to go within yourself. Ask yourself these things. If you were my coaching client, this is what I would ask you to do. I would say, okay, where in your life are you allowing failure to define you? Where are you letting your failures to define you? Why are you letting your failures define you? And how can you no longer do so? You answer those questions and you're going to be able to move forward a lot more fiercely than you are now. You're not going to be stuck. Being stuck is the true failure. I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Thank you for being here with me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the She's an Asset podcast. If you wouldn't mind, could you please share this out? The only way we grow and I can get this out to as many people as possible is with your help. So we're kind of in this together. And the good thing is I know you have my back. So I want to say thank you and ask for you to share the show. And if we're not hanging out in the socials, I hope that you'll come and hang out with me. I'm Autumn Clifford pretty much everywhere. Thank you so much. See you next time.